Hello everyone, I'm Woman International Master Knarik and I'm using the chesswithknarik.com website to record this video. In this video, we will see a second part of the smothered mate. So here we do have our knight and our queen. Usually we use for a smothered mate. That's how I know that I will try to do that. Also the black king is not safe. I also know that my queen should be on the b8 h2 diagonal. Checking from that diagonal, it means that either I'm going to check from d6 or e5, and probably better is going to be d6 because at the same time we'll be attacking the rook that's on f8. Uh, so I know that I should remove the knight from the d6 square. And of course, we should also maneuver the knight and change its place as well, because I know that also in the smothered mate, I need to have my knight in this position. I need to have it on the a6 square. So usually we can take the knight there by gaining time by checking from the c7 square. So definitely my first move is to remove the knight from there and by gaining time and by check. So there we go. That's our first move, knight to b5, check. So of course we need to analyze what's going to happen if the king is moving to the b8 square or if the king is moving to the d8 square. Now, if the king is moving to the b8 square, then I know that I will be able to do the smothered mate here. And so, as we said, our queen should be checking from the b8 h2 diagonal and surely from d6 because we're keeping an eye on the f8 rook. For example, in case the rook that's on c8 blocks the check from c7, well, we don't have to capture because after that, it's true that we want a rook, but and we have, of course, a very good attacking position, but we want to checkmate and we want to do the smothered mate. And okay, much faster is going to be when we capture the rook that's on f8. Again, the only move is going to be to block with the rook from c8, and now another check. And here, in case the rook is blocking again, we can just capture it and then do a back rank checkmate. While if the black king just moves away, then we can now check from the c7 square. And again, if the rook captures, then we have a back rank checkmate. And in case the king moves to b8, then we can do the smothered mate, move the knight to a6, the king moves to a8, because moving the knight to a6 is a double check. This is a common practice when we want to do the smothered mate. The king must move to the only safe square, which is a8. And here we go. That's the classical sacrifice of the queen, and only the rook can capture this queen, and there we go. We can checkmate, smother the mate from the c7 square. So let's go to the original position. So our first move was knight to b5 check, and we were talking about the king moving to b8, and we check from d6. So if the rook is blocking, then we were capturing the f8 rook, and we saw how we can checkmate there. Now, what if the king just moves to the a8 square? Now the same. Now we should maneuver our knight, because to do the smothered mate, our knight should be on a6. For example, here, if I simply sacrifice the queen on b8, well, black doesn't have to capture. This is a typical mistake that usually students do. They try to sacrifice the queen when the rook doesn't really have to capture. If your knight is not on a6, or you don't have, let's say, a bishop protecting your queen, well, black doesn't have to capture with the rook and allow us to do the smothered mate. Black can just capture with the king, and we just gave up the queen for nothing. So we have to have in this position the knight on a6. So to maneuver it there, we need to first check from c7 again. And again, if black is capturing, we have the back rank checkmate. That's why it was important to have our queen on d6. And otherwise, if the king is moving, we're again in the same position as before. We do a double check by moving the knight to a6, and now we will be able to do the smothered mate, because after that double check, now when we sacrifice the queen, again, the rook is going to capture, and we are able to do the smothered mate. Now let's go back to the initial position. So we said that when we're checking first from b5, now black might move the king to d8. Okay, so now it's going to be, of course, difficult in the middle of the chessboard. There are some positions where in the middle of the chessboard we can do the smothered mate, but here we don't have enough pieces, or black is not surrounded with enough pieces for us to do the smothered mate. So we need to try to checkmate black in different ways. For example, here we can try to get more pieces involved in this attack, which is, for example, the rook on d1. So how can we do that? Let's say the rook can be involved, can start attacking from the e file. So let's force open the e file. How can we do that? With checks, of course, because I don't want to waste time. I don't want to allow black to find ways to defend. So I want to do all my moves with check, not to allow black a chance to breathe, to try to protect the king. So here, after this check, king is moving to e8. Again, I don't want to do a move that gives the turn to black and black will be able to think, and maybe not, but maybe they will be able to find ways to defend. So why do that if I can simply capture with a check, open the e file with a check, and now okay, if the position is repeating, if the black king is moving either to d8 or to d7, it doesn't really matter. We can repeat the position, but now here we are, queen to d6, and the king is moving to e8, but now we have opened the e-file, and all by gaining time, all by doing checks, right? And here we can continue with our attack, and our rook is participating in the attack here. Of course, blocking with the queen is not going to be such a useful move. We can just capture it and continue our attack. So black king is just going to move away to f7, and here there is just mate in one. We already have enough pieces attacking, and there we go. That's going to be checkmate. So going back, it was important that black doesn't repeat the position. So let's go to the original position. We check, king move to d8, we check from d6, king move to e8. So here it's important that black doesn't move to the d file, because then we're attacking with the queen and the rook, and that was very fast checkmate. So probably black now is going to move to f7. But now this is a very interesting position, because we started by doing a smothered mate on the queen side of the chessboard, and now we just are going to do the smothered mate on the king side of the chessboard. So how are we going to do that? Of course, we're going to need our knight to be close, and if we get our knight uh, to check and come close for the smothered mate, that's going to be very good. So by gaining time, we get the knight closer, and there we are. We're like just symmetric to what was happening on the queen side a while ago. Here, again, our queen should be, in this case, on the a to g8 diagonal. So we're going to check here from e6. Again, it's important that we check from e6. Okay, here for two different reasons. Because, for example, on d5, our queen is not going to be safe because the black queen is there. In addition, we said when we're checking, we also want to keep an eye on the rook that's on c8 in case black decides to block. We can just capture that rook with a check, and like we saw on the other side of the chessboard, we can just check. Here, black's only move is to block. When we go back to check, here, either black is going to block, which is going to allow the back rank checkmate, or black is going to move away, which is going to allow the smothered mate. There we go. That's a check. If black captures, again, back rank checkmate. If black moves away, remember, where should our knight be? And how should we do that? We should do it by gaining time. We can just move our knight to the h6 square with a double check. Then king's only move is going to be to h8. And here the queen sacrifice on g8. And we will be able to do the smothered mate with our knight. So going back, let's go back. Okay, let's go back to when we checked with the knight and the king moved to g8, and we checked from e6. Here we looked at the line where the rook is blocking from f7. Well, if the king moves to h8, we can directly maneuver the knight to the h6 square, and okay, our typical move, which was the knight to f7 with a check. And again, if black captures, we have a back rank checkmate, and if black doesn't capture, then we will be able to maneuver the knight to move the knight to the h6 square with a double check, and that's how we will be able to do the smothered mate. And there we go, and knight to f7. And I just want to remind you also on this part of the chessboard, so if we go back, if we don't move the knight to f7 and then to h6, and we just right away give up our queen. Again, it's not going to work because remember, we need to have a piece that's defending our queen. Otherwise, black doesn't really have to capture with the rook, while black can just capture with the king, and we're just losing the queen for nothing in this position. So to make sure that we will be able to do this smothered mate, we need to maneuver the knight, change its place to the h6 square, and we're doing this by gaining time with all these moves. And there we go. Now our sacrifice should just be captured with a rook and the smothered mate here.